Hello everyone, and welcome to Calabogie Motorsport Park as Canadian Kawasaki Motors presents qualifying for the Yuasa Batteries Superbike feature class. This is brought to you in part by Mopar, by Joe Rocket, and by Godrich Toyota. The pole position award for Yuasa Batteries, we've been keeping track of points ever since the start of this season when Ben Young was fast qualifier up here. Ben Young was also fast qualifier at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and as a result of those two fast qualifying, he leads the points he has 20 points accumulated thus far, and Alex Dumas, the Suzuki rider, has finished in second spot in both cases and has accumulated a total of 12 points. And they're a very interesting situation for third spot, where we have a tie between Tommy Kazas, who rides the number 18 Yamaha, and number 24 Sebastian Tremblay on the Kawasaki. They are tied at 8 points each. So this day we go into the qualifying for the Yuasa Batteries Pro Feature Qualifying Class, and again brought to you by Mopar, Joe Rocket, and Godrich Toyota. As we go on throughout today, it's we're in one of those situations right now where everything is very, very quiet. Of course, we've gone down to the last minute at the countdown clocks to the last minute. This will be a 20-minute qualifying session, and it will begin just as soon as our 5-minute countdown clock has reached zero. Bikes will be on track, and we're hoping to have a chance to talk to many of the top riders right after they come in off the track. It may be difficult. We've already admitted that many of the riders are concentrating on what they're doing, and they simply don't want to be disturbed while they're trying to qualify for a national championship motorcycle race. There are thousands of dollars in prize money up for grabs here, not to mention the bragging rights that goes with the number 1 plate, presently owned by Jordan Zoke on the Kawasaki, but eagerly sought after by Ben Young on the BMW, and most certainly Alex Dumas on the Suzuki. So a very interesting day ahead of us. Lap records are a possibility. We already have established 1 lap record today in the lightweight class. Superbike lap record. Oh, we're live on board right now? Awesome. Okay. And that's with Michael Leon, I believe, is carrying our camera again this year. In the background, of course, there goes Sebastian Tremblay. He rolls out onto the racetrack, and he on the number 24 machine. Heartbreak for Tremblay at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, where in the National Championship final he had actually received the checkered flag in 3rd place, but because there was a red flag on that lap, they went back to the previous lap to score it, and Tremblay ended up in 4th instead of 3rd. Trevor Daly was the one that inherited 3rd place in that instance. So Tremblay's out for a bit of revenge on this day. He already has a stranglehold on the Liqui Pro Sport Bike class, and he's one of the very few, if not the only rider who has the possibility of winning both classes here, and that's something we haven't seen in CSBK Superbike or Sport Bike racing in many, many years. But Tremblay most definitely has the qualifications to get it done. A lap record in the Liqui class, and he's obviously running with the top runners through the practice sessions this morning. We had a 15-minute practice session for the pro riders this morning, and again, he was running right in the top 4 at that point in time. So as we wander down into the pit area here, you can see Philippe Massé getting his sport bike ready. This is the pit area where Sebastian Tremblay working out of. As we make our way down, we are somewhat limited, of course. There goes Elliot Vieira. Now, Vieira is one of the riders who riding a sport bike in the Superbike class. As such, he has a motorcycle that produces about 125 horsepower, and he's going out against the field of motorcycles that produce as much as 200 horsepower in the Superbike class. So he definitely has his work cut out for him on this day. We watch now as the first bikes are coming around on their first out laps, I would say. Once these out laps are complete, of course, we're going to send them out in vengeance, and at that point we start recording the lap times, and we will forward those lap times to you as this day goes on. Meanwhile, in the pit area, of course, the pit crew's standing by just in case the rider may need a tire change, may need a gearing change, get feedback from the rider as to how the motorcycle's reacting. Suspension may be altered at certain points. Again, most of that stuff has been sorted out through the practice sessions, but as we get into qualifying, the riders start pushing those motorcycles just a little bit harder, and suddenly where you had really good traction last lap around, you may find yourself just slipping a little bit. And so they may have to take changes to the motorcycle, whether it be tire pressure or indeed the tires themselves, because they do have a choice of compounds that they can run in these races, either soft, medium, or hard. All running on Dunlop tires, of course, all running on Dunlop slips. The lap records have all been set on Dunlop tires, and if there are any lap records in the books today, they also will be on Dunlop tires. Proceeding through qualifying now, the riders are now out on the back portion of this race course. For those that don't know this race course, it is over 5 kilometers long and encompasses 20 corners. So it is a long racetrack. It's a very fast racetrack and a very demanding racetrack, as you'll find out from the riders as we speak to them as this day goes on. Just coming up over the lip right now, we just caught sight of Michael Leon on the number 74. Royal Distributing sponsored BMW S1000RR. He'll be breaking up over the hill here in just one moment. Coming out of the valley, out of the pit there, and into Wilson's corner. That's number 20 on the thing, on the track rather. And of course, the pit walls here at Calabogie Motorsport Park are quite tall. You'll see anybody standing on the pits has usually got the pit up to here. So as the riders go by from this angle, it's very difficult to make out who they are. The best luck we would have is for one of our riders to pull in and do a quick check-in with a crew chief, and at that point in time we can find out what that rider is experiencing out there, what kind of changes they're making. 2.28, they're talking about the lap record here? Were you speaking about the lap record? Okay, we just got word back that Alex Dumas has run a 2:02.8, and that would be a brand new lap record then for Alex Dumas. 2:02.1. So it sounds like Dumas has got himself a new lap record here. We'll confirm that. We're getting the information from timing and scoring right now. We can get that information fielded to us and forward it to you. But Dumas, it seems, with a 2:02. I know the lap record had been a 200 flat from 2019. No lap record, I thought not, because it was back in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, that the lap record was set here, and it was around a 2-minute flat. Thank you very much for that. So Ben Young is leading our qualifying session. It is Sebastian Tremblay who's running in second spot. Trevor Daly on the Suzuki. So here we have a BMW up front, a Kawasaki is running in second spot, and the Suzuki in third spot, and then a Yamaha in fourth. So the first 4 positions are occupied by 4 different manufacturers, namely BMW, Kawasaki, Suzuki, and Yamaha. Alex Dumas on the number 23 machine is running in 5th spot right now, and Jordan Royds on the IBEW S1000RR BMW. Here comes Alex Dumas onto pit row. He's coming in at speed. I'll tell you what, that motorcycle didn't sound like it was running all that well. He is well down on the leaderboard. A 2:02.8 for him, and a best time of 2:01 and change for Ben Young. So Young atop the leaderboard and lowest lap time thus far. Young, Tremblay, Daly, Casas, then Dumas, then Jordan Royds. Samuel Garand finally on the number 2 machine is starting to make himself known. Jordan Zoke. Zoke is way back in 8th position right now. Jordan Zoke, number 1 plate holder, the people's champion, as I often refer to him, is in trouble here. He is way back in 8th position. Michael Leon is in 9th, and Ernest Bernard rounding out the top 10 at this point in time. So Zoke is definitely going to be the story. We ran into a very similar situation at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, where qualifying was interrupted there, and Zoke found himself starting from 9th position on the 3rd row. And that is certainly a storyline that we're going to carry over to Calabogie Motorsport Park, because here we are with Jordan Zoke sitting back in 8th position in qualifying, and very early in qualifying admittedly, and Ben Young at the top of the leaderboard, getting very close to the lap record. Meanwhile, anticipation on pit row as the pit crews and the crew chiefs can do nothing but sit and wait. They looking at their timing devices to finding out how their rider's going to do, and of course being ready to move, being ready to jump into action as soon as that rider pulls into pit road. First thing he's going to want to do is for somebody to take the motorcycle from him so that he can get his helmet off, and he or she can get their helmet off and get some water in them, get hydrated and what have you. At that point, of course, the crew chief will be looking over that motorcycle, checking tire pressure, finding out how much suspension travel they have and what they've been experiencing on various portions of the race course, and making adjustments to accommodate for that. So qualifying continuing here. Ben Young still leading it, and he is leading in the UASA Batteries qualifying points scramble for the overall championship at the end of this day. And we will certainly know after this qualifying who has won that UASA Battery award. We're anticipating a pit stop now as we look like we're getting some activity here under the Shakers pit area. You can see Christian Allard and the rest of the crew standing there and waiting. Of course, one of the things we don't have in motorcycle racing is radio communication between. Here comes Ben Young now. Young on the Van Dolder's home team sponsored BMW as he makes his way down to pit row. Oh, would that we could get a word in with him. There's Trevor Daly now. And here is Sebastian Tremblay. So hopefully we're going to have a chance to talk to the Shaker about his experience out there. They're showing him his time. It's the same one that I'm looking at. And he's sitting in second spot right now. So the Shaker could be charged up. You'll see that right now they are putting tire warmers on the front tire. Sebastian's significant other is sharing the time with him. It looks like they may have a rear tire change in mind. A rear wheel change, which could encompass a new tire as well. But let's see if we can get a word in with Sebastian. I'm often quite hesitant to ask a rider, will they speak to us for a moment, because there's so much going on in the pit area. Can you ask Sebastian if he'll speak to us? And as we look down, you can see the team right now is changing their sprocket. They're taking the sprocket off the motorcycle wheel that just came in. That tire has worn sufficiently that Sebastian wants a fresh tire, so he's getting ready to put some... Sebastian, first of all, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. Tell us what's going on. Is this a new tire going on?
Yeah, we're swapping a tire to get a fresh one.
Can you share with us what compound you're running?
For the qualifying, we're running the super soft tire.
Okay. You're sitting in second spots already in this qualifying. Are you pleased with that?
Well, we're always trying to do better. So for sure, we're gonna try to do another session to about 2 laps hot. Unfortunately, my first outing, I got not a lapper, but I've got someone in front of me that blocked me on my second lap. So hopefully we can do better on the next.
When you go back out for qualifying, Sebastian, will you be looking for a faster rider, perhaps someone in your own league to go out and go with?
I basically like to go alone, by myself. Okay. That's how I go.
So you have today a possibility of wrapping up the Liqui Pro Sport Bike Championship, but here we are talking about Superbike, and your team is just about ready for you to go. They're putting that back wheel on. Tire warmers are on there, of course. The Dunlop tires are working good for you?
Oh, for sure. They're going great this weekend as well. They've been going great for a lot of years now, but the new compound they have, they're a lot stickier and they last a lot longer than they used to.
We've already had a chance for you to practice this machine, Sebastian. Have there been any issues that you can share with us?
Not so far. I have a little bit of a chatter in the front, but whenever you're pushing hard, you always have a problem. So.
Okay. Why don't you go out on that racetrack and have some problems? They're waiting for you, brother. Have fun. Sebastian Tremblay, the Shaker, getting ready to head back out on that Kawasaki. They've just done a quick wheel change to it, so they already had the wheel sitting here in the paddock area, sitting on its warmers. It's nice and got lots of good gription, and he selects first gear. That's a shift up for first gear on that particular motorcycle, and he heads back out, sitting in second spot when last seen in behind Ben Young. And a good news item for Jordan Zoke fans is that previous to this point in time, where he had been sitting back in 8th spot, Zoke has found some magic on the racetrack, and now he has moved up into 3rd spot. So this is starting to get very, very interesting indeed. Any words of advice? could talk with Elliot Guerrero if you want. Could talk with Elliot Guerrero if you want. He's close by at least. All right, so we were very fortunate. There's Tommy Casas has come in. Casas, when last we saw, just checking on the leaderboard now, Casas is not doing all that well. Dumas has moved ahead of Ben Young, by the way, who indeed has moved ahead of Sebastien Tremblay. So Tremblay now shunted back to third spot. Tremblay shunted back to third spot in the overall program, but Tommy Casas has got his work out for him, and this is not the first time that Tommy's been up against the gun in CSBK. We saw the same thing here at Calabogie Motorsports last time we were here, and of course at Mosport we had a very similar situation where Tommy's crew were working feverishly on his motorcycle to get it ready for qualifying, and they were late getting out, and Tommy had to start from pit row, so he had a huge job ahead of him to ride that race. Now the good news for him in that particular race was he did make his way up into fifth spot, as I recall, or eighth. I need to be corrected on that. Point being is that Tommy Casas made his way up the field quite substantially, and passing all those riders gave cause for Martin Hamel from the Fast Riding School to present him with a $500 check for the hard charger of the race. And he did that at 3 separate races at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, with Samuel Garand winning one of them, Tommy Casas winning in race 2, and in race 3 it was Jordan Zoke coming back from an eighth position start, third row on the grid, and making his way up towards the front and eventually taking the race win in a very exciting fashion. Last lap effort for Jordan Zoke. That was the second out of 2 wins of that weekend. There's Michael Leon making his way down the pit row, and I'm going to suggest that Leon may be finished. Now, Leon had been carrying our camera on board that BMW S1000. There goes Leon over the fence now, as you can see, and it looks like he has completed his qualifying effort. Maybe we could talk to one of his crew and find out exactly what went wrong there. But unusual to see him out of action so quickly. It also looks like Vieira has been satisfied with his effort now, as he is out of the leathers into the shorts and t-shirt, and looks like his qualifying position is complete. A quick check-in with timing and scoring shows Alex Dumas atop the leaderboard over Ben Young and Sebastien Tremblay, then Jordan Zoke in 4th with Trevor Daly in 5th, Tommy Casas in 6th spot, so he's been coming along very well. Jordan Royds in 7th spot, Samuel Garand in 8th, Michael Leon in 9th, and Ernest Bernard on the number 72 in 10th spot, rounding out our top 10. And we are getting down to the last few minutes of qualifying now. And here comes Jordan Zoke. Zoke, who's been making such great progress, and would that we had the opportunity to get down and speak with him at this point in time, as he is a rider who had a dismal start to the season. Back here at Calabogie to start the season, he ended up with 2 third-place finishes in the 2 feature races that we ran here. He thought he had a bad tire. He told me, I can't get proper traction out there. The bike is just not hooking up right. So he was blaming the tire, the Dunlop tire, for that. But as it turns out, they had made some changes to the motorcycle that affected the power delivery on that bike. And that's very simply said, of course, but it was basically that. They had put a newer part on the bike that didn't know how to read the old part, and the end result was the traction was intermittent. So Zoke, of course, with all his saddle time and experience, he could feel the difference in the tire. But what he didn't realize, of course, is that it wasn't the tire that was causing the problem, but rather the power delivery to that tire. So they got that sorted out, but he came away from here very disappointed, 3rd spot, and he had to ride the wheels off that Kawasaki to get to that. Then he ran into the problem at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, where in the initial qualifying they got into some lapped riders. It was in race number 1 they got into some lapped riders and shunted him back a bit, so I think he ended up 5th or 6th at the end of that one, but ended up winning the next 2 races on the day. So as we watch the action here on pit row, 2 minutes left in qualifying, so we'll see if there's any changes. I'm going to keep an eye on the leaderboard as much as I do the pit row here, because Alex Dumas and Ben Young, now both of these riders are fighting it out for the Yuasa Batteries Pole Award as Kawasaki presents the Yuasa Battery Pole Award here at Calabogie Motorsport Park. And again, effort on the racetrack as Dumas, that was Young that just went by. I thought I recognized that. Young just went by, but he stays in second spot. He has not been able to move up. That will put him on the front row should the positions remain the same, but right now it is Alex Dumas. And it was Dumas, by the way, that won, of course, here the opening 2 rounds. They ran 2 races, 2 Superbike races in a row, one a day after another. But it was Young that took fast qualifier, and it was Young that chased Dumas down to the wire. Essentially in both races. Race number 1, he was quite a bit far behind him after having a dismal start, but made his way up and challenged eventually for the podium positions. But Dumas this time around just may have a fast qualifier, because we are if we're on down to the last couple of minutes, we most certainly are on the last few laps of this. We'll be watching carefully down pit road to see if we can pick up on that checkered flag coming out. But again, even after the checkered flag, if there are runners on track, if there are riders on track when that checkered flag comes out, those riders, of course, will be allowed to finish their running laps. So what I'm getting at is sometimes even after the checkered flag, there will be distinct activity atop the leaderboard in the Yuasa Batteries fast qualifying here at Calabogie Motorsport Park. Wow, what a qualifier this has been. Dumas, Young, Zoke, and Tremblay. But particularly Tremblay. Tremblay is the one who has not been there yet. He's shown such huge promise over the years. He's been undisputed king of sport bike racing here in Canada, and he's going to prove that a little bit later on this day by wrapping up that championship in the Liqui Moly Pro Sport Bike class. But in superbike racing, well, first of all, he's been doing a lot of his superbike racing on a 636 Kawasaki. That's put him at a distinct disadvantage to the 200 horsepower superbikes he's competing with. A 600 bike, of course, is limited to 100. It's over. Qualifying is over. Dumas has taken it. Alex Dumas has taken fast qualifier here at Calabogie Motorsport for Suzuki, and that will move him even that much closer in the overall Yuasa Battery qualifying points standings. They were 20-12 coming in there, but Young finishing in second spot, assuming he gets that done. If Young gets second spot in qualifying, I'll get confirmation on that. And if he does get second spot in qualifying, that will give him enough points to take the championship in terms of the Yuasa Battery Pole Award for 2021. So an excellent effort by Alex Dumas as he pulled that off very late in that qualifying session. He was leading the qualifying session very early in the running of the 20-minute session, and then fell back into second spot as Young started to get hot. Then Zoke started his climb up the leaderboard, and no sooner had Zoke got into third spot on the leaderboard than Alex Dumas came out and just laid down a heater. He went ahead and took pole award here, so he will start from pole position on a field of 3 riders on the front row, and Dumas will get his choice whether he sits to the left or the right, but either way, Alex Dumas is on pole position for the Calabogie Motorsport Park CSBK final. Thanks for joining us here at Calabogie Motorsports. We'll look forward to keeping you abreast of CSBK 2021.